Hi, Devin.
How's it going?
I'm very well, and you? Nice to see you here.
You too, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me try out your gear. So this is your new
Not
amp?
a problem. Yeah, we're here with Devin on the Hughes Kettner couch, on the corner of it anyway, looking at Era 1, the brand new Hughes Kettner Acoustic amp, and you've just been playing it through your new signature Ocean Machine delay and reverb pedal.
Yeah.
What are your first impressions?
Well, this is your guitar as well, and it is struggling to stay in my tuning, but
Which is open C, by the way, isn't it?
it is open C. Yeah. I think it's beautiful, and I think aesthetically it's really interesting as well, because in just trying different amplifiers and going through the options that you have, a lot of the times what I like to do with acoustic is just simply this, is just to play and hang out and have it sort of be in the background. And a lot of times with the sound being in the background, you're looking for an amplifier, at least I have, that is sort of inconspicuous. If it looks like an amplifier, then it draws your attention towards it. And I think it's the same even with the sound. If you're focusing on what it is that you're playing, it becomes less of a counterpart to whatever it is that you're talking about. And with this amp, because it kind of looks like a piece of furniture, at least this wooden one, I really like that. I like the idea as well that it's got a good high end, it's got a good body, and it's got a good dynamic range as well, right? But I'm not sure about this guitar, but for the sake of our conversation, it'll do fine.
Yeah. The guitar's brand new. It's going to take a good few years to
Sink in.
and for the top to open up and that, isn't it?
Can you tell me about the Era 1? What is the specifications of this amp?
Yeah, well, it's brand new. If you're watching this as we released the video in June 2017, it's designed and made here in Germany.
Okay.
It's got a lot of headroom. It's got a 250 watt power amp in it.
Class D.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed. You've got 4 channels in there.
4.
Yeah, channels 1 and 2 are what you would primarily use if you were a singer-songwriter or whatever, because they're both exactly the same in terms of how they're built up, and you'd plug in your guitar or your vocal mic or whatever, but you can have 2 of either if you so wish. And you've got channels 3 and 4 on the back, which let you plug in any kind of playback device you might want, MP3s or smartphones or whatever. You've got tuner in and out, effects, send and return, all that sort of stuff. You've got your DI out on the back, so you can go straight to the PA without effects, as we've already found out. Yeah, it's basically got as many kind of professional features as an acoustic instrument player might need to perform a show in any kind of environment, we'd like to say.
What is the target market for this? Who are you hoping to sell to? Just like people in general, or is there like a certain singer-songwriter or?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, obviously primarily guitar players, although we do say that the amp works equally well whether you're playing a zither or a violin or whatever, any kind of stringed instrument. It sounds very, very good with.
Yeah.
We're not in kind of bargain bin territory at all with this. It is kind of a premium made amp, kind of hand done here on site. And I guess what I'd say as a ballpark would be, let's say people who have an instrument that costs the same or more than the amp, which I can't officially say in a video, but look at your favorite online store and you'll see how much it is. if you're paying that much more for your guitar, if you're into solid woods and transparent pure tone, if you value that, this is going to be for you.
What is the speaker configuration? What is the speaker configuration in it?
We've got an 8-inch speaker and then a 1-inch dome tweeter.
Okay.
For the high end, yeah.
Okay. That's cool, man. Yeah, I really like how it looks. I think that's the thing, because a lot of the times, like in our interviews that we talked about earlier, a lot of what I'm trying to do when I'm finding a rig for myself is to solve practical problems, which is, for example, the reason why this pedal exists, because I can do this without having to cart around, my Axe effects or whatever else. And I think when it comes down to an acoustic amplifier, to have something that is inconspicuous is, I think, a part of the problems that I have encountered with acoustic amps. So it's nice to sort of see how this one looks acoustically or aesthetically. It kind of fits into your living room there, right? At least mine. Yeah. So it comes in either this color or black, right?
It does.
All right. Right. No pink.
Oh yeah, but if you're thinking of a signature model, then
yeah, I got a signature Aero 1 in bright pink. Well, I mean, honestly, it's my trip to Hughes and Kettner here has been more on the heels of working with Dave, our guitar player, and I'm just sort of experimenting with what you guys have got going on, but this is a pleasant surprise. I think it's a really cool product, and you guys should feel very proud of yourselves.
Well, we do.
Nice.
Thank you very much for saying nice things about it, of course. How much acoustic guitar do you play? I mean, do you more noodle? Do you write on acoustic? Do you perform on acoustic, or do you avoid that?
What I'm doing right now is what I do on acoustic. I like to have a guitar in my hands, and that's kind of how I write. It's the subconscious part of it plays more into my process than sitting down and writing complicated acoustic numbers, right? But this sort of background thing is something that I've always really enjoyed, right? To try and find a way to sort of fill your environment with nice... It's kind of what I do with acoustic, and I play it often, actually. But amidst the chaos that is our band and everything that goes on, I like to sort of reserve the idea of acoustic guitar for a part of me that is less commercialized, less trying to sell, and more just I really like the guitar and I really like notes, right? So I do this with guitar, and I do it, or acoustic guitar, and I do it often.
Do you approach it differently to the electric in terms of how you play it, how you look at voicings? I mean, obviously the tuning here is a little bit different to the norm.
No, this is the same tuning. Yeah, Open C. It's the same one that I use for all the rest of the heavy stuff too. It's how do I approach it? I'm doing an online course right now, Devin Townsend Creative Academy. Isn't that horrible? Yeah, shirts too, so bye. But a lot of what I'm trying to put across in that is that the creative process should evolve subconsciously from pointing your life in a direction that you want to go. And so my connection to the acoustic guitar has a lot to do with just letting it occur. Like whatever, wherever I'm at emotionally, it seems to come out just by participating in it sort of passively. Yeah. And I think that's the only significant difference. Other than that, it's the same process. And for me, even with the heavy stuff, I don't spend a lot of time second guessing what I do. So maybe this is just more of a direct representation of that process.
So you could just be kind of noodling away on the couch or something like that, and suddenly a fragment, a riff, a verse, something could come to you, and that could then transition to the electric guitar and make its way onto a future album.
That's why I use echo as well, because then you interact with yourself, right? I like that idea. Like, and a lot of times you'll like stumble upon
we ride on the wings of the Valkyrie.
beautiful harmony which I love. The female form. That's it. It's like, I think a lot of times creativity is stunted by focusing on it. You know, for me, my life is so full of stimulus and like pressure in a lot of ways that music should not add to that. It should be the exhaust of that process. And that's why I say if you're pointing yourself in a direction in life that you have consciously made a decision that this is a focus that I think is healthy for me artistically and personally and creatively, then I think all you have to do is wait for the songs to show up, and they do, right? And I think acoustic for me is a way of articulating things with the least amount of distraction. But a lot of times people will be critical of my processing. Well, you use so much echo, but the reason I do is because when I go to do orchestral music or with Devin Townsend project or whatever, the layering that I tend to do is something that whilst in the process of figuring it out in a very minimal setup, the echo, for example with this, the way it interacts with each note implies to me a potential orchestrated layer, right? So acoustic for me is it's the same process, it's just quieter. Yeah.
So do you ever play totally unplugged campfire sort of stuff, or do you need to always have that kind of additional echo, reverb, whatever it is?
I remember reading the Howard Stern biography like 20 years ago, and I don't remember much about it, but I remember one thing when he was talking about someone saying, well, I can't eat a baked potato unless I've got butter on it. And he said, but you know, if you're stuck on a desert island, you would eat that potato raw and it would be the most beautiful thing that you've ever eaten, right? So I think it's the same principle is, in a perfect world, I would have racks of gear and guitars with lights and echoes and all this sort of stuff. But ultimately, you just need a voice. And, you know, whether or not that's yours or acoustic guitar, or sometimes it just means no sound at all, he said sagely.
What would be your desert island rig then?
Desert island rig? Oh, I don't know. It'd be a speedboat. Get the hell off of there and come back and play my guitar. I don't want to be on a desert island unless there was lots of grub, you know. Beautiful sunset, 72 degrees in the head all day. Big walls of amplifiers that I could play. Nubile young aliens caressing my feet. Some sort of drug that I could rationalize as not being a drug. So when my mummy asks me how I'm doing, I can tell her I'm not on drugs. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting in front of the sunset going, damn, this is nice. I don't know. Or we could just go on tour tomorrow. What do you say, Dave?
That would also work. But what's interesting is I can see how, as you play, it's affecting the way that you speak. So I can see how it's feeding into one another.
Exactly. And it's funny too, it's like I can always tell, or I can often tell, how I am reacting with somebody depending on what comes out, you know, like if your fingers end up going there, or if it's like the minor stuff, right? It's indicative of what's going on in your environment. And because this is neutral where we are, I find we just sort of stick around and see, right? But when we're on tour, if I'm fortunate enough to have the opportunity to bring along a practice amp and a rig, I'll do this backstage forever, basically. Like all day, I'll just sort of pluck away on this. So, you know, I have some friends that are like, well, you should record a record of this, but it would be incredibly boring. And plus, if I was to sit down and focus on playing like this, it wouldn't occur in the same way. It's about the passive interaction with it. And I like music in general being, as I mentioned earlier, the exhaust of a process. And to have something that is an immediate reflection of whatever that process is, with acoustic and a bit of echo for me, is it's just nice. It takes the importance out of music and it turns it into a counterpart to the experience. And ultimately what I'm trying to achieve is to find a way to articulate emotional development within myself in ways that others can participate in that is not so specific that it can't apply. Because I think, amidst my fear and constant existential dilemmas, there's a sense of peace, in a sense, that comes from having people recognize within your work things that relate to others. Because I think, even now with social media and all this sort of stuff, it's so easy to subscribe to the fact that humans are really separate from each other, and we're all just kind of inherently scared, dumb animals that are sharing, maybe 6 fundamental emotions. A lot of times people say, if you listen to a band, you're like, this singer, this guitar player and I are connected. But I would suspect that humans in general are connected, and the things that comprise our emotional complexity are really, like I say, a handful of fundamental emotions, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah. It's getting kind of
meta.
Deep in a way, meta.
Yeah.
But I can see again how kind of having the acoustic guitar in your hands, it kind of, I don't know, is it sort of freeing the mind up just to kind of flow a bit?
Totally. That's the thing. It's like if I focus on things, I lose it. It's like to be able to set up something that is minimal and ergonomic and allows you to sort of listen to yourself. I mean, a lot of times when you're playing or when you're talking without analyzing where you're at, you'll find yourself saying, I had no idea that this is who I am or where I'm at this particular part of life. And then when it finally comes to making the records, you're able to sort of coagulate all these sort of moments where you're just like, that note, for example, it's a really consonant thing. And in this frame of mind, that is like striking a chord as opposed to like, but even there, I'm like, I like the idea of both at this point. I like the idea of like that sort of the fluctuating between the major and the minor. Right? But then you can coagulate that either by writing it down into notes, and I think over time, all these sort of subconscious cues end up pointing in a very specific direction. And someone had mentioned it's like an archaeological dig. You see something sticking out of the dirt, and you're like, that's interesting, and then you keep sort of digging away at it, and eventually you unearth something, and sometimes it's of some sort of value to you, and other times it's a chicken bone, right? Then you can make a chicken bone record.
A lot of players who play the kind of music that is associated with you, heavier stuff, they're 100% electric players. They wouldn't pick up an acoustic and noodle or whatever in this way. Would you recommend it to them as a way of opening up their minds to new guitar techniques and styles? I'm
in no position to offer people emotional advice. I can fake it, but I'm a banana. I think the thing is, it's for me, I chose heavy music years ago for the reason that it's so funny because, cousins or people who are not familiar with why one would make heavy music over top of something more consonant like this are often like, you like heavy music, like Motley Crue or like Metallica. But for me, the idea of playing heavy music allows me to articulate emotions with a type of visceral sound that doesn't exist with any other type of music. When you listen to Wagner, or if you listen to Stravinsky, a lot of the Rite of Spring, for example, is very easily sort of transcribed into heavy metal riffs if you were so inclined, because it's a visceral sound. So to not use heavy music, it has no reflection on me as a musician. It just doesn't make any sense to not utilize, if you're speaking of love or hate or anything that is of emotional significance to you, to not be able to hammer it home sometimes belies the importance of the emotion. And with heavy music, there's nothing that is more visceral. So my decision to make heavy music has very little in terms of my connection to a scene, and more it's just a practical thing. So there may be people that play heavy music that feel differently about it, or maybe their reasons for doing it are based in something that I don't relate to, and in that case playing acoustic guitar is probably of no value, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's the affinity to the instrument, keeping it in your hands. It's a constant.
Yeah, it's music. It's like I'm so fortunate to be able to walk and my fingers work and I can sing, and you know what I mean? So music should be a reflection of that rather than some sort of pissing contest, right? Anyway, we should sell some gear, right?
Yeah, let's sell some gear. What I was going to say is kind of that naturalness of it.
Yeah.
The tone of this amp, what we've been trying to do is actually recreate the unique tone of the instrument itself as closely as possible.
Oh, cool.
Which of course is a moot point when you're using reverbs and delays.
That's true.
But
that's true. Exactly. But at the same time, if you had an amp that sounded that didn't have that characteristic, you could put a delay and reverb through it and it would be the same thing. It just wouldn't sound as good.
He's got me there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, I like the fact that it's dynamic. That's one thing. It's like, I'm not technically working with these amps or anything. I'm just hanging out with you guys and trying your amp today. But I do like the fact that you can, get a... Guitar can eat a dick, though.
Yeah. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Rich. Good seeing you again, buddy.
This was Era 1 from Hughes Kettner with Devin Townsend, having some ambient fun. Let's check us out on hughesandkettner.com.
Right.
Heavy Devi.
Check it out.
We'll see you later.
All right.